It was incomprehensible for Cecil Foster to see his daughter's car missing for 21 years unearthed.
Kind of seemed like a dream almost a dream.
18-year-old Erin Foster and her friend, 17-year-old Jeremy Bechtel, disappeared in Sparta, Tennessee back in 2000. Police searched as far south as Florida for them, but the case went cold until now. Scuba diver Jeremy Sides, who hosts the YouTube channel Exploring with Nug, found Erin's Pontiac underwater in Tennessee's Calfkiller River. Sides dives to aid in the recovery of lost or stolen property.
I'm lost for words. I'm so glad I could find him. I'm so sad that that's where they ended up.
The river, about 8 miles from the home Erin shared with her parents, is where Cecil has fished for years.
Have you ever wondered what secrets might be hiding beneath the surface of a quiet river? What if the answer to a 21-year-old cold case was lying just a few feet below, invisible to the naked eye? And what if it took a YouTuber, not the police, to finally bring the truth to light? Today, we are going to talk about a shocking story of how a determined YouTuber used Sonar technology to solve a mystery that had haunted a small Tennessee town for over 2 decades. On the evening of April 3rd, 2000, Sparta, Tennessee lay under a quiet spring sky. A soft chill had settled over the small town, its streets mostly empty as the last of the day's light faded. In a community where everyone knew each other by name, a sense of predictability was the norm. That night, 18-year-old Erin Foster and her close friend, 17-year-old Jeremy Bechtel, were part of a small gathering, a casual get-together among local teens. Erin, a spirited and independent young woman, drove her 1988 Pontiac Grand Am, a black 2-door coupe with a red pinstripe along the side. It was the kind of car that reflected her personality, slightly worn but dependable, a familiar sight around town. Jeremy, quieter but equally well-liked, rode in the passenger seat. The two had been inseparable friends since childhood, bound by shared experiences in their rural hometown. Shortly after 10 p.m., they left the gathering. The route home would take them along Highway 84, a winding 2-lane road with no guardrails in places and stretches that dipped into darkness. The Calfkiller River, calm on the surface, ran alongside sections of the highway, its waters glinting faintly under the pale light of the moon. Witness accounts placed them leaving in good spirits. There was nothing unusual about their departure, no sense of urgency or foreboding. Jeremy had spoken to his father earlier in the evening, a routine call that offered no hint of trouble. For the families of Erin and Jeremy, it was simply another night in a safe, tight-knit town. Yet, somewhere along that quiet drive, their path disappeared into the shadows. No one saw them again. The Pontiac, with its distinctive shape and color, vanished along with them, leaving behind no skid marks, no debris, and no immediate sign of where they had gone. It was as if the road itself had swallowed them whole, sealing the beginning of a mystery that would endure for more than 2 decades. By the following morning, the absence of Erin Foster and Jeremy Bechtel began to raise quiet concern. In Sparta, it was unusual for young people not to be accounted for, especially when their plans were known to family and friends. Initially, there was no panic. Perhaps they had stayed out late or chosen to spend the night with other friends. But as hours passed without word, unease settled in. Families began making calls, tracing their steps through the previous evening. The party was confirmed, the departure witnessed. The 1988 Pontiac Grand Am remained missing, along with its 2 occupants. By nightfall, concern had hardened into alarm. Local law enforcement was notified, and an official search began. Deputies focused on the obvious routes between the gathering and the teens' homes. Roadways, parking lots, and nearby wooded areas were checked. The Calfkiller River, visible from stretches of Highway 84, drew some attention, but without evidence of a crash, it was not the initial priority. Flyers bearing the smiling faces of Erin and Jeremy were distributed through town, posted in shop windows, and pinned to bulletin boards in gas stations and diners. Days became weeks. Rumors began to take shape, fueled by the absence of tangible leads. Some suggested the pair had run away. Others whispered about foul play, pointing to supposed sightings in nearby towns. By late April, investigators had expanded their search radius, following tips that led to neighboring counties and eventually across state lines. Despite the growing file of reports and interviews, no trace of the teens or the car emerged. Friends struggled with the uncertainty. Parents navigated the torturous balance of hope and dread. The case remained active but stalled, its unanswered questions quietly settling over Sparta like a heavy fog. In a community defined by familiarity and shared history, the absence of Erin and Jeremy became an unspoken wound, an ache that time refused to ease. More than 2 decades after Erin Foster and Jeremy Bechtel vanished, the case remained a haunting fixture in White County's collective memory. Files had been opened, closed, and reopened, their pages marked with faded ink and dead-end leads. By 2021, the story had the weight of a local legend, something often mentioned, rarely expected to be solved. But outside the official channels, an unlikely figure was preparing to challenge that quiet resignation. Jeremy Both Sides, known to his growing online audience as Exploring with Nug, had carved a niche for himself on YouTube by searching for missing persons and lost vehicles and waterways. His tools were not the badges and warrants of a traditional investigator, but a small boat, a high-resolution side-scan sonar, and a diver's persistence. Sides was methodical, studying old maps, traffic patterns, and the last known movements of his subjects. His approach combined the curiosity of a historian with the precision of a search and rescue professional. In late November 2021, Sides arrived in Sparta with the Foster-Bechtel case on his mind. The Calfkiller River wound directly through town, crossing paths with Highway 84, the road Erin and Jeremy had taken on the night they disappeared. Locals had suggested it before, perhaps the car had left the road and gone into the water. Yet, no dive or search in the early 2000s had confirmed it. Technology at the time lacked the sharp imaging that modern sonar could produce, and murky water conditions discouraged detailed sweeps. The morning of December 1st, 2021, broke cold and gray over the Calfkiller River. Mist clung to the surface, curling upward into the air as if reluctant to let go of the secrets beneath. Jeremy Both Sides prepared his gear on the riverbank. Wetsuit, gloves, fins, mask, and a dive light capable of cutting through the murky water. Each movement was deliberate, practiced. The sonar images from the day before were clear in his mind. A vehicle-shaped shadow, still and silent in the depths. Sliding into the water, the first shock was the temperature. It bit through the neoprene, numbing his skin as he began the slow descent. Visibility dropped to near zero almost immediately. The water, a thick, tea-colored haze, stirred by every movement. He moved by touch and instinct, following the faint pull of the current toward the coordinates he had marked. Then, out of the dim, a shape began to take form. The beam of his light revealed a corroded metal frame, mottled with rust and river growth. The outline was unmistakable. A compact, 2-door coupe. The wheels were half buried in silt, the windshield clouded with grime. The once black paint had faded to a dull, mottled brown, stripped of its shine by 2 decades underwater. He swam closer, circling slowly, documenting every angle with his camera. When his light caught the rear bumper, his heart jolted. The license plate, though dulled and obscured by algae, still bore faint white numbers and letters. Clearing it with a swipe of his glove, he read what had been hidden since 2000. The plate matched the one assigned to Erin Foster's Pontiac Grand Am. The realization carried a weight that was almost physical. Here, resting in the silence of the river, was the answer to a question that had haunted 2 families for more than 20 years. As he peered through the driver's side window, his light caught the skeletal remains inside. 2 figures, side by side, preserved by the cold darkness. Breaking the surface, the winter air hit harder than the water. Sides removed his mask and exhaled, the enormity of the moment sinking in. He had not just found a car, He had located the final resting place of Erin Foster and Jeremy Bechtel. The river, which had held its secret through seasons and storms, had finally given them back. He contacted the White County Sheriff's Office immediately. Deputies and investigators converged on the site, marking off the area and preparing for the recovery. For the first time in 21 years, the mystery was no longer a question of where. They knew. What remained was the slow, careful process of bringing the car, and the teens within it, back to the surface. The morning of the recovery dawned cold and gray, with a heavy silence hanging over the Calfkiller River. The water flowed steadily, indifferent to the decades of mystery it had concealed beneath its surface. Heavy machinery and a team of law enforcement officers gathered on the riverbank, their faces etched with a mixture of resolve and solemnity. This was not just another recovery, it was the closing of a chapter that had haunted a community for over 20 years. As the rusted Pontiac Grand Am was carefully winched from the river, the weight of years submerged in darkness became tangible. The car's battered frame groaned with age and water damage, a stark contrast to the vibrant lives once connected to it. For the families of Erin Foster and Jeremy Bechtel, who had clung to hope amid uncertainty, the sight was both a painful confirmation and a long-awaited relief. DNA testing soon verified what no one had dared fully accept until then. The remains belonged to Erin and Jeremy. White County Sheriff Steve Page spoke with a heavy heart, acknowledging the missed opportunities during earlier investigations. "We regret that the search didn't uncover the car sooner," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But we are grateful to finally bring them home." The community's grief was profound. Erin's father, Cecil Foster, had carried the pain of loss quietly until his death in 2025, never fully knowing the fate of his daughter. Jeremy was laid to rest with dignity, surrounded by family and friends who had waited decades for this moment. Erin's cremation in 2022 marked another step toward healing, even as the shadows of unanswered questions lingered. Beyond the sorrow, the case symbolized a shift in cold case investigations. It was a YouTuber, armed with sonar technology and relentless determination, who pierced the veil of time and water. This unconventional breakthrough opened new possibilities for solving mysteries long thought frozen in the past. The story of Erin and Jeremy serves as a powerful reminder. No case is truly cold, and hope can surface from the most unexpected places. What do you think about Erin and Jeremy's story? Did anything in their journey surprise or move you? And what kind of true crime or mystery stories would you like us to explore next? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one and truly appreciate your input. Thank you for watching Wet Glove Storytime. We're passionate storytellers who pour our savings into gear and courses to bring you the best content we can. By day, we work full-time 9-to-5 jobs, and by night, we create on the side, chasing this dream with everything we've got. Every like, share, and comment means the world to us. It's more than support. It's the fuel that keeps us going. Let us know what topics you want us to cover, and we'll do our best to make it happen. This is Liam, and I'll see you next time.